Hey guys, Michael here. I know it's been a while, but I am back to share with you yet another video, and this one is about XCS. XCS is Xtool Creative Space. It's a free product provided by Xtool to help you run your P2, your M1, your D1, so that you can actually take advantage of all the bells and whistles, especially when it comes to the P2. Also, at the end of this video, I'm going to answer a couple of questions that some of you sent me using my Google Sheet. If you don't know about my Google Sheet, check the description of this video or any of my other P2 videos. There I have all my settings that I use for cutting, engraving, scoring, all the test grids, test cuts. You can see all that information provided for you for free. And it's just something that I use to help kind of give back to the community because the community gives so much to me. So here we go. Let's get into XCS. Here we are in XCS. I'm going to try to go fairly quickly through this because we have a lot to cover. I have a little highlighter over my pointer so that you can follow it. I also have a little tool running on my computer where I can do Control C or Control V, whatever I'm doing on my keyboard on these shortcuts. You can see what I did down here at the bottom. This is always the latest one that I did. I'm going to start on the left hand side and sort of work my way to the right. Finally jump down here on the far right once I get out to the shop and actually talk about actually doing some projects on the P2. And this is primarily about the P2, but this also works with the M1 and the D1 and anything else that uses this XCS software. Up here in the top left is the settings. Here you can change the unit of measure. This unit of measure affects the size of the objects, the distance, the thickness, just the different coordinates on the screen. So that affects everything about XCS. The hotkeys, this is a hyperlink to take you to the hotkeys available inside XCS. Auto snapping is a feature that you can turn on and off. Precise vector path is also a feature you can toggle on and off. Imported image too large for the canvas. I have it set to ask me every time. If you find yourself being asked all the time, you insert a large image and you always do the same thing over and over again, you can come over here to the settings and set it to that setting. That way it never asks you and you decide later on, oh, I want to change that. You can come back over here and change it. So it is available here. However, I use it for ask me every time. Set the language. If you want to view the logs, you can pick which log type you want to view and select open. And down here you see the current version that I'm using is 136 currently on this computer, and I can check for updates if I like. Inside developer mode, you'll go in there if Xtool support asks you to. If I close that and come over here to file, you have the ability to go to new to create a new project. You can open an existing project. You can import an image, which is the exact same thing as using this image import icon right there on the left. You can do a save to save your current project, or do Control S on your keyboard to save it. And you can also do a save as if you want to make a copy of the current project. You can do a save as and give it a different name. Over here on the bottom, you have a selection tool, which is what I have right now. Allows you to select different things on the screen, manipulate it as needed. The hand tool is just for viewing only. If you want to drag this around and just kind of look at something, let's say you're way over here zoomed in and you want to get over here, you can just jump down here, hit the hand tool and pan over, take a look at it and come back without actually accidentally selecting things. But you can also zoom in and out. It just depends on how you want to use those. All right, so let's talk about zooming real quick. I prefer zooming with my mouse wheel and holding down the control key on my keyboard. If I hold it down and scroll down, it zooms out, and scroll up and it zooms in, and it zooms based on the pointer location. So if I have my pointer down here and zoom in, it's going to zoom in on that bottom right hand corner. If I zoom out and move it over here, it's going to zoom in right there. So it zooms in based on where your pointer is. If you get kind of, well, I want my grid over here in the center, well, you can do a couple of different things. You can use the hand and you can move it, or you can use this built-in zoom stuff down here on the bottom. You can say fit on screen. It'll fit everything on the screen that you have available, or the canvas in this case. But you can also use these different zoom features. In my version, this is a little bit older version of XCS. However, you can use the newer versions have even greater than 1,000%. I think it goes up to 4,000%. All right, let's talk about these icons over here. Let's act like we're going to start creating with XCS. So image icon, you pick that and you can select an image file. You have JPEG, PNG, GIF, SVG, DXF. I click open and it drops it on the screen automatically. I believe it always puts it at 0, 0, but I could be wrong. I think it always puts it on the top left. With this object on the screen already been selected, you can see you have a new menu here. You also have some things that came live over here. You can ignore those for right now. We'll talk about those in a minute. But this menu right here, this is related to this object. So if I want to change the grayscale or invert this object or change the sharpness, change the filter, you can do all that right here in this menu. If you click off the object, the menu goes away, but to bring it back, you just click back on the object and there it is. You can also edit your image. Inside the edit, you have a different little grid, a different view. Here you can use a magic wand tool to select different parts of this to erase it. The fuzziness controls how, I guess, how precise that magic wand is going to be. If it's, I think it's the higher the number, the more precise it is, I believe. And I could be wrong on that, could be backwards on that. The eraser tool is just that. It's just a big eraser tool like you use in Microsoft Paint. The size controls the size of that circle that you see. The smaller the size, the smaller the eraser, the larger and the larger. And you can adjust this by using this, or you can use the numbers, or you can type in the numbers, however you feel comfortable with doing that. Let me just show you. So eraser tool on. I'm going to click and hold and drag it. And I just erased part of my image. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. I can come over here and hit undo by clicking it, or I could have used Control Z as in zebra. The crop tool, it allows you to pick just a certain portion and save that portion of the image. Let's say I just want to save the text out of this image file. Everything else is trash. I can do this, and yep, I agree with that. Or no, I can make some fine-tune adjustments here. When you're happy with it, hit the checkbox, and there you go. There is just the text that I want. And whatever changes you make, you can hit save. I'm not going to save that because I want to keep my logo intact. Hit cancel, and I'm back out over here. Once you save it or hit cancel, it takes you back to this screen. Now, second icon down is insert. Here you are able to insert a line, a rectangle, or a circle. When you select, let's pick a rectangle. When you select it, it allows you, wait for you to pick a spot on the screen, click and drag with your mouse and let go, and there is your rectangle. Now, the rectangle, circle, line, it's all controllable using this position, size, and rotation, or you can use your mouse and pick points on it. So let's talk about this stuff up here. And it's the same thing with this object. As you can see, these are also available. But let's talk about this one right here. Let's say I wanted this way over here in the top left for some reason. I wanted it at 0, 0. If I'll come over here and put 0 and 0, and now it's at the top left corner. What is X and Y? X is the horizontal location. 0 is always here in the top left. And if I want to move it to, let's say 100, no, this is in inches, that's pretty big. I'm going to move it to, let's say 2 inches over. So I'm going to come over here and type 2. And now it's at 2 inches over from this edge right here. And let's say I want to move it down 5 inches from that line up there. I can come over and say it's 5, and it's 2 and 5. So that's how you use the position. A lot of times I'm just going to move stuff around. You don't have to use that. Size, it controls the size of the object. Now in this case it's a rectangle, in this case it's a square. This case is a rectangle, this case is a circle. However, if I pick this, now I have a square. So the size that you see here is actually the out of this object, the outer perimeter of the object, as if there were a rectangle or square around it. So the size, you control the size of it by, you can either drag it, grab a corner, grab a side or corner, and drag it. Come over here and do the same thing. Or you can come over here and set the size. Let's say I want this to be 3 inches in diameter. So the width is going to be 3. And there you go. I got 3 inches wide and it's 3 inches high. But let's say I wanted this one to be 3 inches also, but I want it to be 6 inches high. Well, if I come over here and type 6, now I didn't want that. I wanted to be 3 by 6. Well, that's because you had the padlock turned on. You just turn it off and change this to 3. Now it's a 3 by 6. So you have to have this proportionate lock on depending on what you're working with. Rotation is over here off the right. When you select the object, you can change the rotation of the object, or you can grab this little dot in here in the top and drag and change the rotation. A lot of times I sometimes rotate it, but if I do that, depending on what I'm doing, I'm either going to do it by hand up here by typing, or I'm going to drag it. It really depends on what object you're going to be working with and what you're designing. Another thing I want to find out is a bug inside XCS. Let's say I wanted to make this rectangle a 1/2 inch wide. So if I come over here, take this out this 3 backspace, I'm going to type 0.5. Wait a minute, that says 5. I want a point. So I moved my cursor in front of that 5. I'm not sure if you can see it that well in this video. I'm typing the point, but it's not really doing anything. It's not changing this because there's a bug inside XCS. The way to get down into the decimals from a whole number into the decimals is kind of goofy. You have to actually drag this by hand into the decimals. Now I'm below that 1, and I can now convert this to 0.25. And now I'm 0.25, right? So I can't make this 0.25 square because I have it unlocked. I want to say, all right, I'm going to change this to 0.25. My point's not working. Why is it not working? Because of the bug inside XCS. You have to drag it below that 1 where you're into the decimals. And now I can say, all right, 0.25, go 25, and I can fix this one, 25. And there we go. There's my quarter by quarter square. So keep that in mind as you're changing the size of things. If you want to go from a bigger object down to something below that 1 mark into the decimals, you cannot do that by typing in up here. Also over here on the left, you can insert a circle. You can click and start dragging. If you hold down Shift, it makes it a perfect circle. Same thing with the square. If you click the rectangle, select and hold, you can make it as big as you want, or you can hold down Shift and now it's a perfect square. The line is a little bit weird. It is kind of buggy sometimes. So if I pick on line, I can pick and I can drag a line. That's all well and good, but I want it to be horizontal or vertical. You can hold down Shift and now horizontal or vertical. However, let's say I want to manipulate this. Well, if you're going to manipulate this line to adjust the width of it, I suggest you do it up here. Don't try to do it down here because it is kind of flaky. I'm going to set this 5, okay? That's pretty easy. But if I accidentally try to move this thing, and let's say for whatever reason, I accidentally grabbed this and moved it. Well, now it made it an infinity line. It's all the way as far as this will go, and it's a crazy height, and it broke the line. So be careful with lines. Lines are kind of weird when it comes to actually moving them around. So that right there, I tried to grab it and move it. It infinity again. So I got to undo it. You can change the rotation of lines, but really manipulating lines to change the width or something, you're better off doing it over here. Over here in the shape, you have the ability to add multiple shapes. So this is really handy when you're creating different things and just getting started. You can drop in hearts, moons, triangles, rounded corners, squares, ovals, anything you want that's available right there. So that's really handy to have. And then underneath that, you have the text tool. When you click that, the text will automatically show up on the screen. It'll automatically show up here no matter what. Even if you're zoomed in way over here and you click text where to go, well, it's actually way out here again. So it actually shows up at the top, sort of top center. And you just have to remember that when you're actually trying to insert new text in the screen. You have to zoom out, find it, and move where you want it to go. It always shows up the word hello right now, according to XCS. And to change the font, you don't actually double click on this font here. You come over here on the text tool. Text tool goes away when you don't click it. When you click it, there's your text tool. Here you can actually change the font. I'm going to change to Michael. And I can change the size. I can make it like say 90. And that's all well and good, but I really don't use that. I most of the time use my drag. And the lock proportion works the same way with text. I can unlock it and make it squishier, elongate it, whatever you want to do. Typeface is the font you use. The font it pulls is what's installed on your computer. So if you have a font you downloaded from Etsy or whatever, and you want to use it inside XCS, you can. Close XCS, install your new font on your computer itself. Once installed, launch XCS, and you should have that new font available inside here. And you can go over here and type it, and as you start typing, it'll find it in there. Another thing you can do is the style. The style is associated with the font chosen. So this font actually has these styles available, whereas maybe another font, let's pick this one here. This one only has these two styles available. So the styles are related to the font itself. And spacing is the spacing between the letters. You can control that. If I hit 2, see the gap is much bigger than 0. And I can make it a -1 to make them even tighter. And leading is something I don't use. It's a vertical alignment. So if I come over here and say, so I'm just hitting enter and typing my letter. So I have, let me zoom out, move this over here. Michael is awesome. And I'm going to come over here and change the leading to, let's say, 5. And it adjusts the spacing. Let's make it -2. So it adjusts the spacing in there. Honestly, I don't use that. Normally, I'll make these 3 different text fields and align them myself. But you can do it that way. Speaking of alignment, you have the ability to say left alignment, middle alignment, and right alignment. And that's handy only with the text is in one text field. So if I had 2 of these, and let's say this one was left and that one was right, and I want to center these 2, you cannot do it because it's seeing 2 different text objects, so it cannot do that. You would use a different feature for that. But yeah, this affects only on that one text object there. And lastly is weld. Let me zoom into, let me change this to Michael. Oops. The weld feature is really cool. So, do you see this right here where the lines are kind of overlapping? If this were to cut out, if I took this and cut it on the laser, it would cut the I and C and break them apart, and I have this little cutout drop into my honeycomb. And the same thing with all these. It would be separate letters. So I don't want that. I want this to all be a single solid piece where you can pick your text and select weld. Now, before you do that, make sure you are 100% finished with your text. You're just finished with your text as far as editing and the spelling and to be able to change anything in this menu. Because once you weld it, you can never adjust this stuff again in this menu. It turns this into an object like a star instead of a piece of text where you can actually change the actual typeface or whatever inside here. It will make it an object. So I'm going to hit weld right here. Let me zoom in and show you what it does. You can see these are individual letters. It would not cut out very well. If I welded them, now, as you can see, it's all one big solid piece. And that would cut out just fine, assuming it works on the material that I want to cut out. And this is not too thin and won't break in the material. But yeah, and also this text menu went away because it's an object now. It's treated as if it were a circle or a star or whatever. Over here on, let's see, down here on the left is vector. If I click vector, this allows you to draw custom shapes on the screen. If I pick it, I can start drawing, and it has a little dot on all the spots I'm picking. If I'm done drawing, I can hit escape on my keyboard, and it completes the object. Or if I want to make this, I want to make that same thing, only this time I want to close it. And I just click on top of the original dot. It makes it a single piece. And it treats it as if it were one of these objects, right? But the one thing that's cool about this is, let's say I wanted to make these rounded corners and not pointy corners. Let me zoom in and show you what that looks like. Let me use my control key and zoom in. Since this was created using the vector tool, I can double click it. And now I can see my vector points selection that I did. Each of these points are a hollow, sort of a hollow dot. If I double click those dots, it changes to a solid dot. You can see that. Every time it's solid, it means it's a rounded corner, and you can adjust how much round it's going to be, the radius of it, by sliding these sliders. If you want to convert it back, oh, you know what, this is supposed to be a sharp corner. Let me double click this again, and now it's a sharp corner again. So let's say this part right here, I want it to be rounded. I can double click this, and I can manipulate the round however I want and click off of it, and there you go. I don't know what that is, but it's there. If I want to change it back, I can double click it and make that tighter or make it pointed again. There we go. Back to whatever this is. All right, holding down control and zooming my mouse wheel and back out. XArt, I am not going to go over that because that is a new beta feature that I don't want to go into because I don't know too much about it. Down here, this little menu right here, this is a layered menu. You can put these on different layers, sort of like what you can do in Lightburn. And once you put them on a layer, you select the object. You can say move to, while it's selected, or you can right click it and say move to, and you can pick which one you want. What I don't like is I don't use this because mainly I'm colorblind and I have a hard time seeing these colors, and I can kind of remember, yeah, I think, well, okay, this one is I don't know what the color this is. I'm gonna right click. I think it maybe one of these three. Honestly, I don't know if it's this one or this one now that I look at it, because these are, well, gosh, even that one's even close. I have a hard time seeing that. So I don't use layers that much, but you can put them in layers, and the advantage is when you select the layer, it selects everything in that layer to quickly do stuff with it on the machine. And when you send it to the machine, set it to engrave or score or cut, but we'll get to all that. But yeah, I don't use this feature, but that feature is available in there. All right, let's delete this. Let's insert some objects and let's talk some more about. I'm gonna copy this, paste it, paste it, paste it. All right, we got that in here. So let's talk about some stuff up top. These two objects, I'm going to select them both. I can combine them. If I say unite, and now it's one piece. Undo that. If I select them both and say combine, subtract, what it did was, well, it's hard to see. Let me make this a little bit easier to see. What it's going to do is use the one on top to subtract from the one on the bottom. When I say top and bottom, one layer is on top of the other, or one object's on top of the other. How do you control that? Well, I can go over here and say selected, arrange, bring to front, or send to back, or bring forward and bring backward, depending on how many steps you have in there. You just have to know which one's on top of another. So let's say I bring this one to front. Now I know this one's on top of this one. So if I select these two, combine, subtract, it's going to use what's on top as the tool to cut what's behind there. So let me show you what it looks like. There you go. So it was on top and it cut out what was behind there. So it just cut out, make it look like a cookie now. If I undo that and select them both and combined, if I say unite at overlap, it's going to actually unite between the two objects. What was overlapped, that center eyeball looking thing, was the center of the two that overlap. So I can undo that, and also you can play with subtracted overlap. So what that's going to do is the opposite of the united overlap is going to remove the outside edge. Now it's been kind of hard to see on that, but let's do something. Let's say you want to make a donut. All right, there's our donut. I'm going to select the little one. I'm going to put him on top. Arrange, bring to front. Select the two. Now the subtracted overlap is going to be handy. What that's going to do is use that little circle and cut out this little circle shape from the big circle. Because right now, the little circle, to show you, it looks like that. Okay? The big circle, let me turn that back. The big circle looks like that. So they're literally full circles on top of each other, like two pieces of paper cut out. But I want to use this little one as a cookie cutter to cut out from the big one. Again, make sure the little one's on top, bring to front, select them both, combine, subtracted overlap. Now, this is one piece, but look what it does. It's a donut now. So the combine feature is really handy depending on what you want to do and manipulate. You just have to know what's on top of another, and you can do that by just kind of selecting and changing the arrangement of them. Reflection, that's pretty pretty easy to understand, I think. I'm going to put in a leaf, and I'm going to select it, change reflection vertically. It just flips it. Horizontally, it just flips it. And grouping, ungrouping, if you select two objects, you can say, I want to group those together. Now they work together. If you ungroup it, now they are independent from each other. You can group as many objects as you want. If you ungroup a group of objects, they are all broken individual pieces, no matter what. So let's say I grouped these two, then I added this one, and then I added this one in different steps of grouping. Once I'm finished adding them and I say I'm going to ungroup it all, they're all going to be individual pieces. So I wish it kind of went backwards and stepped and just ungrouped the last one I did, but it does not do that. Array and outline, let's talk about those. I'm going to come over here in my leaf. I'm going to move him like that. There we go. That looks pretty. All right, let's talk about array. Grid array. Grid array is on a grid. How many horizontal pieces and how many vertical pieces do you want to multiply or duplicate? And what is the spacing between the two objects? So as you can see right here, the more you add, the more you can multiply, and you can come over here and let's say change the spacing to 0.2, 0.2. So this one's pretty cool. You can see what you're doing as you're doing it. However, I wish this grid array were not in the way. I wish it were like over here on the top left or something, because it's always right smack dab in the middle of your screen and you cannot move this out of the way. Let me cancel that. The other one is circular. Now this one's a little bit trickier. When you click this, this X and Y is the center of your circle that you're arraying or you're duplicating these objects around. Right now, the center, as you can see in this object, is about right here where my pointer is. That is at 13.869 by 8.3. So if I want to move this around, I can. Let's say I want to move the center over here some. I'm going to add, I don't know, 10 to this one. So I'm going to say, I'm going to say 23. So now the center is 10 over. That may be too many. Let's drop this down to, I don't know, let's do 18. There we go. That's easier to see. So this takes some getting used to, and I don't want to go too much into it, but this is the center of the array, the X and the Y. How the circle is, you're going all the way around, so it's 360 degrees, so I can do 180, and it only does half a circle. The number of steps is calculated automatically based on the number of objects and the circle size or the degree. And the number of copies is the number of objects you're going to be duplicating. So if I add more to it, I'm going to get more leaves in there. Rotate objects is going to, it says rotate yes or no. If it's on, it's going to rotate as they go around the circle. If it's off, it's going to be the same orientation all the way around. So that's depending on if you need to make something with a design like that. All right, what else am I missing? I have combine, reflect, arrange, align. Let's talk about align. So let's copy this, Control C, Control V. And so I had this one object selected. Now, do you remember when I told you about auto snapping? What auto snapping is when you're moving this guy around, you see those lines that are popping up automatically? Those are auto snapping. Those are auto snapping lines. As you can see right here, the lines line up. That means I'm centered. I'm on the edge of it. I'm top left, top right corner. So that's what auto snapping does. You can use that, and that's a really handy, really quick way to align stuff. If you have that off for some reason, and I want to align these two horizontally, I can select them both or select all 100 of them, however many you have on there. Select a line and say, let's say align horizontal, and now they're aligned horizontal. If you want to center them on top of each other, you have to do it twice. You have to horizontal and vertical, and now they're centered on top of each other. You can do the same thing. Let's say I want to align bottoms. So you can come over here and say align bottom. There you go. Align tops. You can come over here and say align top. So there's different ways you can do that. If you have more than one, more than two, let's say we have these right here. I can select these, and let's say I want this guy to be in the middle of these three right here. You can do that by saying align, distribute horizontally. Doing that will actually make an even space between the three. So align horizontally. There you go. So if you have a ton of these, it's going to distribute them evenly between the first one and the last one. So let's do that again. Align horizontal. And there you go. They're evenly distributed. Now, why is this guy way down here and this guy's not quite in line with this? Because I had them that way. All it cares about is distributing horizontally. If I wanted to align them horizontally, I need to do align. I'm sorry, vertically. Do vertical, and now they're in line with each other. The alignment vertical does the same deal. Let's say I have, or just distribute vertically. Does the same deal. It does from the top down. Select them all, like say distribute vertically, and now they're evenly spaced vertically up and down. And I can just align them like this. So the alignment tools are really handy to have. Smart Fill. I cannot show that until I'm connected to the machine. What else can I show you? I think that, over here in the announcement, when you first launch Xtool XCS, Xtool Creative Space, it will show you a latest announcement that Xtool wants to push out to you. You can also come over here and view the announcements. You can go to community, and you can, that's how you get to the community group. It takes you to the URL, and you can talk about what all is out there in the Xtool community. Projects are built-in projects you can pick from, and you can come over here and type the word bunny. If I type the word bunny, it says, hey, there's a couple bunny projects you can make. These are pre-made projects that you can actually import into XCS and make. So if you don't know where to start at, you can come over here to project, find something simple you want to make, like a bookmark. Book. I want to make a bookmark. Oh shoot, there's no bookmarks. Okay, let's see book. What else do we have underneath book? All right, we can make a cork notebook. Now let's engrave on that. Let's say, I don't know, the word cut. Oh, here we go. Door plate. Let's say I want to cut this out of wood. You can say, I want to make this, object. This looks really fun. So I'm going to come over here and click Start Project, and it'll dump it to XCS, and you can start working on that project. So that's pretty cool, handy for people that are just getting started. Support takes you to support.xtool.com. Shop takes you to xtool.com. Let me jump out to the shop. That way I can connect my P2 and show you a little bit about this and wrap this up, because I know we're getting pretty long here. All right, so we're out in the shop, and you'll notice a few things different about my P2 that you've seen in my other videos. Number one, what's this weird thing here in the front? This is just a video camera that I use. When I open this up, you can actually see inside. I have it on a desk now. So this desk was a Facebook Marketplace find. I beefed it up underneath, and yeah, I have my P2 sitting on this, and it's on some casters. Also, if you notice right here, I built my own riser base. I was not given a riser base with this P2 when I was testing it out. So you know what? I wanted to build my own because I wanted to test out using the RA2 Pro. So I built my own. I do have a piece of aluminum underneath here. When I do have the tray removed, the laser will not actually damage the desktop here. So I do have a big sheet of aluminum underneath there. So let's talk about XCS when it comes to the P2. Opening this thing up, as you can see here, I have the bottom tray installed, and I have a couple of slats installed as well. When looking at XCS over here, you'll notice this is where you're actually going to connect to the P2. When it's connected, it's going to tell you if you're connected via USB or Wi-Fi. Also over here, it shows you your P2 or your M1, whatever device you're connected to. Up here in the top right, you can actually select the gear icon. When you click on it, you have some basic information, your working information, basically how long the machine has been running. And in here is the settings. In here you have base plate detection. You can toggle that on and off. Smoke exhaust after processing. You can actually turn that off. You just want it to just stop right away, you can turn it off. Optical path test, we'll go over that another time. I'm not going to go over that right now. You can adjust the light inside of the P2 now, and right now I have it set to 20% because I didn't want it to interfere with the cameras that I have running. The airflow of the air pump, you can set the airflow between engrave, and this also I believe affects score, and cut. Of course, cut you normally want to use 100%, but engrave, maybe you want to cut it down to 50%. I know you definitely want to keep some air flowing, so you don't want to go below about 30%, I believe. And then the lowest output power, I'm not sure what this affects. Maybe the laser, so that it doesn't allow you to go below 3% when you're running XCS. I'm not 100% sure. This is a brand new software they actually put out yesterday, so I have the latest and greatest version of XCS. So let's talk about the modes over here, but before I do that, let me put something on the screen. I'm just going to insert a rectangle and put it right here on the screen. When I have it selected, of course, as you can see, we have the option to change different things about that. But before we do that, we need to decide where we're going to put the material. And right here is where you can decide all that. We have slats flat, laser cylindrical, open plane, conveyor feeder, and the curve process. Right now, let's talk about slats flat. So looking inside the P2, we had the slats installed, and I just have 3 right here, and there's one more over here on this side. And when you put your material in here, this is sitting on top of the slats. That's when you're going to use the slats flat mode. Now, whenever you want to use the open plane mode, when you select that, it's going to warn you, ensure the slats are removed. That's because this laser head can now go below the slats, and it doesn't care if the slats are installed or not. It's going to hit them, and it's going to mess up your P2. So talking about open plane, why would you want to use open plane? Well, that's because, again, if your material is too thick, let's say I want to engrave on the top edge of this, I can't put it like that because it actually hit that. So I could try this way. Nope, that's still too high. I need to remove the base plate. So take the base plate out. I can put it down here on the tabletop, and that would actually let me engrave on top of this. As you can see, it's lower than my laser head. So depending on what you want to engrave depends on the mode you want to go with. Slats flat will be on top of the slats. Anything else, open plane or the curved material or whatnot, you really want to remove all the slats. Again, make sure they're removed because that's very important. And then you can take your tray out or leave your tray in depending on if you meet the minimum height requirements to reach the laser head. Okay, I'm back in slats flat mode, and I have the slats installed in the P2, and I want to put in this piece of material and engrave or score my little square on there for whatever reason. Now, how do you know how to adjust the laser head? And that's when you come over here to the right, and you're actually going to adjust either the material or the thickness. If you know the material thickness, and then usually this is built in from the Xtool settings, you can actually pick a predefined Xtool material, and it will set the focus for you based on the mode that you picked here. If you don't know it, you can take advantage of using the broad measuring tool, the precise measuring tool, or you can type it in by hand. So I have placed my material inside of the P2. Why don't I see it yet? Because I need to refresh the P2. If I hit this right here, it's going to refresh the picture. So it turns on the lights because it's been sleeping for a while, and it takes a picture of what's inside the P2. So I'm not sure if you can see it in the software very well because I'm covering it up with the camera. However, it did take a picture of the material. Let me see if I can flip this off. There, now you can see that a little bit better. Now that I have the picture of the material, I can move my engraving where I want it to be inside there. Let's say I just want to put it in the top right. Now let's say I want to get it really close to the edge. The refresh does a global view or the overall view of the camera. Now I can use the close view camera and zoom in to get a really close-up shot of this corner here. When you click this, it's going to have a little target, and you can move that over here in this direction, and when you click this, it's going to actually zoom in, move the laser head, and zoom into that location. Over here on the right, it's actually capturing still. When it finishes, it's going to have you a nice in focus section right there. So that means it actually zoomed in, and this is the overall. It's kind of sort of grayed out and not as clear, and this is a zoomed in. So now I can zoom in. We'll use my control and mouse wheel to really put this rectangle, or this right here at the edge of this material. That way you can make the most of your material and align stuff up the way you need to see it. Now, talking about this material there, this object that I have in here, let's talk about the different processing modes you can do. You can do a score, which is drawing a line around the perimeter of the object, or basically drawing the object that you see on the screen. Engrave is a fill, it fills in the object, and cut is the same as score, only allows you to actually cut the material. Now, when it comes to cut and score and engrave, you have to adjust the settings. Again, you can adjust the settings manually by coming over here and picking the default material. If I pick 3mm basswood and come over here and select this and pick score, it's going to automatically have the settings based on what Xtool recommends you should use for this P2. Engrave does the same thing. It uses a certain power and percentage, or power percentage and speed. But if I want to choose my own settings, I can come over here and go to user defined. Like, this material may not actually be in this drop down. It's something that I know the thickness of, but XCS does not know the material. So I'm going to come over here and manually put the thickness of 5mm because I know that's what it is. Let's say I didn't know what it was. You can actually use the measurement tools. Now, when you put the material inside the P2, now this is going to be kind of hard to show. Let me see if I can show this to you. I'm going to close this lid and reopen it. There you go. You see that laser light right there? That laser light needs to be on top of the material. There's actually a laser in the top right hand, or the back right hand corner, shooting down the material. It's measuring how thick that material is. So coming back over here at the desktop, you can use this right here that says quick measure. This is actually utilizing that laser to tell you how thick that material is based on the mode you have selected. When it finishes, it's going to tell you how thick that material is. So according to this quick measure, it's saying it's 6.4mm. Now let's say this were, I don't know, two pieces together that you needed to engrave two different spots on it. It wasn't completely flat, and you had a raised piece you're going to do a different engraving on, and it's not underneath that laser. You can actually use the precise, what is this, aimed measure. They call it aimed now. Aimed measure tool. When you click that, it's going to give you a little target, a smaller area, and you can pick a certain spot on that material, and it will tell you how thick it is at that point. That will give you even a more precise thickness as far as material goes. So I just added the word Michael in here, and I have it set to engrave. I can come over here, and let's say I want to engrave the word Michael and cut it out using this rectangle. So I'm going to select this rectangle. I had the padlock turned off, and I want to size it so that it's over the word Michael. But why does it look like that? Why is it solid? That's because you're still in engrave mode. So you have to pay attention to which mode you're in. I'm going to come over here and select cut, and now I can see, let me zoom in, and now I can see this is actually going to cut around the word Michael. Now, XCS does do a smart job of doing the things in the proper order. However, there are times that I found that it doesn't quite understand it. So if I want to be sure to do one process before the other, I can tell it to ignore. So let me click on the cut and say ignore. And if I process this, which sends this to the P2, it's only going to process the ones that are enabled. And since I turned off this by saying ignore, it's not enabled. It's not going to actually process this. So if I hit this now, it's going to come up with a preview to tell you this is what it's going to do. And it's only going to engrave the word Michael. Now I'm going to hit back. I'm going to go ahead and cancel this. But if I wanted to keep going, I could hit process, hit the button on the P2, and it would start engraving. So let me go back, and let's say I'm finished engraving and now I just want to cut it out. I can turn this off by selecting Michael, ignore, and then selecting this and saying output. So output turns it on and ignore turns it off. If I hit process, now you're going to see just the rectangle and not the word Michael. That is really handy to do if you want to pick and choose which things you want to do at the time of the progress or the project you're working on. So I'm going to change out my material real quick and put in a small piece of scrap, and we'll actually create what you see here. Going back to the P2, I'll remove this piece of wood and put in my scrap. I'm just going to put it in there. I actually know the thickness of this, so I'm going to enter the thickness in the software. If you don't know and the light's gone and I don't see it, if you close the lid and reopen the lid, the light will actually show back up, so you can utilize that. However, I know the software, so I'm going to just type it into the material settings itself. With that, let me zoom out, and with that inserted, I'm going to refresh the P2. And when you refresh and you have a close view already captured, it's going to refresh both of them. It's going to refresh the big one and then the little one. So it does take a little bit of time to refresh the cameras. So what I want to do is change my close view on top of the material. So I'm going to click this and use that target area, and right on top of that material take another picture. Up here it took the picture and it's finishing the refresh over here on the right. And when it finishes, it'll display the result. Now I'm going to zoom in holding control of my mouse wheel, and I'm going to move this on top of this right here. I'm going to set this line to score. I'm going to go ahead and say output because I'm going to go ahead and let it score it. I'm going to set it to 50%. Oh, let me set my thickness before I do anything. I'm going to set this to 5mm because I know that's what this one is. Go back to this here. This is set to score. I'm going to set it to 50%, and we're going to set it to, I don't know, let's do 200. All right, and then I'm going to click on Michael, and I'm going to turn that to output, set that to engrave. I'm going to, let's say, put it at, I don't know, 20% power, 20. And I'm going to set the speed to 150. All right, so let me send this to this machine and it will create this project right here. Now to send it, all you have to do is hit process, wait for the preview to come up, process one more time, and it's instructing you to hit the button on the top of the P2 and it will start running. Remember, while it's running, do not leave your machine. It could do some crazy stuff. You never know. Something could get jammed, or you may have picked the wrong setting where it's actually getting too hot and it's causing a fire. Don't leave your P2 unattended. There's a lot of power behind this CO2 laser. Okay, so that just finished up. Before we actually reveal the progress of it, I got a couple questions. Let's see. So regarding the antifreeze that is added to the P2, is it just regular antifreeze you buy from the auto store? Am I looking for something basic or with some kind of additive? My laser is inside and not subject to freezing temps. Do I even need antifreeze? So it really depends on your preference. If you actually keep it inside and you're climate controlled and whatnot, no, you don't need antifreeze. I probably don't need antifreeze in this one because where I'm at and my national averages, it doesn't freeze here. However, there have been two really bad freezes down here in Texas, well, South Texas, that were just out of this world, and yes, it froze, pipes busted everywhere, and I would really hate for this this P2 to get damaged because of the freeze. So it's really up to you. I did personally put the antifreeze that came in here, that came with the P2 in it. You cannot just buy any old antifreeze from an auto parts store. It needs to be laser specific or CO2 laser specific antifreeze. It's it doesn't have the certain additives, or it's a chemical balance that actually works with these and doesn't corrode the material and all the parts inside of your CO2 laser. The other question I have was, I know the air assist is included in the P2, but are you able to turn it on and off as needed, or is it an always on situation? So yes, I think you saw that, yes, you can turn it off to an extent. You can turn it down, you cannot turn it off. When I asked Xtool about it, they do require you to leave some sort of air on, because it's going to help prevent debris and smoke and whatnot getting up into the lens to actually damage the lens and reduce the life of it. So the software is going to prevent you from turning it off completely. However, yes, you can reduce it based on if you're doing engraving or versus cutting. So, and I highly recommend you leave it on for the cutting, because that's where you're going to get all your power from, is the power of the 55 watt CO2 and that air assist. Okay, so let's open this up and let's see what it looks like. All right, so this is what it looks like. But I think this came out pretty good, especially just throwing some guesstimated settings at it. I didn't even look at my cheat sheet or my Google sheet. So that's all I wanted to share with you today. Hopefully you did find this somewhat helpful and learn something new about XCS. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to my channel. I'm definitely going to be putting out more videos about the P2 and about XCS as they come out with the latest and greatest features about it. Also, I think what I'm going to do pretty soon is a recorded video showing you how I clean the P2. This has had a lot of hours testing over at Xtool, and then after they sent it to me, I put quite a few hours on it already. I think I need to clean the lens and clean the mirrors, so I'm going to show you how to do that during my next video. So until then, I'll see you guys next time.